right, ho ho ho, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Indie Corner Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and we've got an awesome guest here. That'll be your
John Ward. That would be
yes,
me.
that'll be you, sir.
That would be me.
John Ward. I don't think you've been on Indie Corner Radio yet. You were on Indie Film Cafe Spotlight, and I think we might have had you on for the Axmas chat that we did for
You and Paul.
yeah, with
Yeah.
me and Paul did for the Patreon only. But this is similar to what we normally do. So it's
Okay.
nothing new and whatever. But the last episode, since we kicked it off in December, I decided, to ask about Christmas. And then I was like, you know what? John Ward has a couple Christmas movies and other movies that he's going to talk about. But I, I thought, why not talk about the Xmas movies and, all and talk about Christmas in general.
Yeah.
So,
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.
yeah,
We're talking about my favorite subject.
is it?
Me.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Christmas, but no, you're talking about
Well, that'd
yourself.
be my second favorite
Is it really?
subject.
Like there's
I
some
love
people
Christmas.
that do you like Christmas more than Halloween?
Yes, I absolutely love Christmas. I have Christmas music playing at work. My uncle gave me when I was a kid an 8-track tape, and it was one that you could order off a TV, and it was all Christmas music, but it was the classic guys like Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole.
Nice.
And I would play that in September. I would play
Uh,
it in July. I didn't care. I would just play it because I love Christmas music, and I love Christmas, which is why I made two horror movies that take place at Christmas.
Which is interesting because Christmas music, a lot of times, a lot of it like you know, not Deck the Halls, but like, Silent Night and stuff like that are more worship songs, more they're more
Yeah,
for church.
there's a lot of God and Jesus and baby Jesus and the three wise men in a lot of these songs. So yeah,
The
but
Three
they're
Wise
the but
Men of West, what, Wenceslas, something like that. You can't see it if we're doing the radio, but he made a, you know, expression of shock, you know.
yeah I don't know. I like the songs, but I don't know them by heart. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so you're just really big into Christmas yourself and you play them. Do you still play music, Christmas music any time of the year?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love Sinatra and the Rat Pack, so every once in a while I'll throw on there. If I'm like cleaning the apartment, I'll throw on the Christmas CD that came out with all of them. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah. I love Christmas. I love movies about Christmas. I love movies on Christmas. I love movies around Christmas. I just horror movies, comedies, dramas, all that stuff. I love Christmas. So
Musicals?
depends, but yeah, yeah. I have no problems with musicals.
Well, there was
So.
always there's White Christmas. That was the big musical. I actually just watched that for the first time, I think last year, when it came on for like one of those channel TCM or something. It came on and I don't think I watched the whole thing. I just watched some of it. But it looked, like I like Christmas movies, but I'm very particular, like Christmas Story and was it I mean, I for the longest time I did not like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Shocking.
That I didn't like something. Oh my
I
God.
know.
How,
Shocking.
how crazy is that John doesn't like something? And this is that ongoing thing that John Ward points out to me is normally when I say I don't like something, he's like, oh my God. Wow.
Wow.
Jonathan didn't like some
Headline. Jonathan
headline.
didn't like something.
I
Well,
mean, yeah, go
I
ahead.
mean, I think we should tell people, that are listening, just audio that what we're wearing. So, because we have some unique stuff
Yeah,
here.
you go
So,
with yours first.
well, I have on, and then this is also for the people that are watching video. This is the original Xmas Santa suit.
Nice.
So I'm wearing the top part and the hat, and then my beard now is gray, so it kind of matches. So this is the original suit, which, as I'm sure, probably still has some blood on it somewhere, that John Seymour wore. And so
Nice.
I thought that it would be appropriate to wear it on this. So
That
and
wasn't the same suit that Drew Marvick wore, right?
no, Drew's was more fancy and he had stuff on the shoulders
Yeah.
because it's all about the like the hierarchy. So like, John would be down here, and then Drew Marvick for part two would be here, and then the killer for part three will be up here. So that suit will be
Oh,
even
giving
better.
kind of idea. Okay. I see where you might
Yeah.
be going with that. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, yeah, I rewatched the thing. I love see what I love about all Christmas movies. You put like some Christmas music in there, you just automatically get in the mood, you know? Makes you feel good inside. Like even if it's, Baby It's Cold Outside or
oh,
which did you do that on purpose? Please tell me. Because
this
no, the
me
Baby
putting
It's
my
Cold Outside. Because
oh, so and for people who haven't seen it in Xmas 2, we do use Baby It's Cold Outside, which at the time people were trying to cancel because they were calling it a rape song,
Mhm,
which it's not. That if you actually see the film that the song is in, the guy is trying to keep the woman from leaving, but in another room, the woman's friend is trying to keep the guy from leaving. They're just not singing. So
mhm.
she is doing the same thing that he's doing, but of course, people just focused on the song and the guy singing. And so in Maximus 2, it was written into the script, and then he gives the degrees that she would be burning at because they want to burn her alive. And right when that song started, and he does quote the song, so but that was before they were trying to ban it. And then I just happened to find the song, like the movie version, on YouTube, and Matt, the editor, uh, put it in there for the music that's in the background.
Yeah.
So we thought, it was kind of like, you're not going to tell us what to do. Plus, it matched later because the song is playing in the apartment, and then when Ashley and Ben Stober are in the storage facility, he could quote from it. So it worked out. So yeah, it's some of it was intentional, some of it wasn't. So, but yeah.
It's sort of funny because like yeah, you're saying like you could get, a lot of it would get canceled for that shit. But and then you decide to put it in, but it also kind of fits with the movie where well, I mean, sorry, there will be spoilers in this thing, So if you haven't seen Xmas 2, stop this right now and go watch it,
Well, oh, wait, you haven't told us what you're wearing.
Well, hold on one second. I just wanted to say this so I don't forget.
Okay.
Um, so the thing was that my thing with that I thought it was really funny is the fact that Ben Stoker's character is a villain and drugs her, So it is sort of like, the idea of a date rapey kind of thing, you know. So I just think that's sort of funny that you use that song and that's what people are calling it, but that you use that in sort of a negative sense at that time.
I mean, people are dumb. So that's they do and say dumb things. Like right now in the UK, they actually put out in the newspaper a trigger warning for green women because of Wicked.
Wait, well, why is that a trigger warning? What would you be triggered for?
If you're a green woman, you may be hurt because of Wicked. So they're warning people. Yeah, if you look it up, there's two trigger warnings that this UK newspaper did. It's a big newspaper, and I swear this isn't the Onion, but there's a trigger warning to people who might be sensitive to a green woman being made fun of.
Isn't that what She-Hulk was? Was there a
She-Hulk is
trigger?
green, but
Wasn't that a trigger warning for that?
I don't know if there was one for green for She-Hulk, but they did one because the Wicked Witch is green.
I
So that's so when Matt and I were playing with that song, it was basically because we just thought, we're not going to let people censor us because that's
yeah,
that's stupid. People are dumb. They don't listen to the song, or they don't know the movie, or they don't know
yeah,
anything like that, and so they immediately jump on it and want to try to ban it when they don't realize that a woman was trying to do the same exact thing to a guy. So
exactly. So
yeah.
what I'm wearing is a ugly sweater with Jack Skellington on it. So this is my one of my only Christmas like outfits or whatever. I have one other one which is like the Christmas story, you'll shoot your eye out thing, but aside from that, I could have wore that or but I think this one's nicer because it's like a little further and stuff from me, and as opposed to that other one's a little tighter and it shows my chest off a little bit. Like I look like a woman when I put that on.
uh
Don't look
I'm
like
sure.
one right now, so it's all, you know. Yeah.
Well, I like your sweater. I'm showing off
Yeah,
my
it's
my
cute.
Xmas mug.
Yeah, look
and
at your
and and
Xmas mug.
and you got the very kind of in a way, if Wicked was at Christmas, I think that your Santa cap would be very wicked because it kind of has that, like the ruby shoes
Yeah, it's got a
type
little
of
bit of
stuff on the
glitter
top
to
there.
it and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So I don't know. I found it at
Got
Dollar
some
Tree.
production.
I remember when we were discussing this, and you were like, "You should, we should wear like Santa gear and stuff and hats and things." And I was like, I was on my way to Dollar Tree to pick up different stuff, and so I was like, "Well, I'll pick up a mug." So I picked up my Home for the Holidays mug, and I picked up the hat, and I this is the only hat I saw. This is the only mug I saw. So it's kind of like there wasn't many options. If I had the option, I would have went
Uh,
with more your hat because I have one of those somewhere. It's probably at
I,
this.
I I like that it isn't, because we're different. We don't blend. We got two
Exactly,
different
and
things
I
going on here.
I think I'm a little bit more sparkly than you like regularly. You're a little bit more darker and
I
serious, and
I
I'm
would
more.
agree with that, and I think your hat matches a little more with your shirt because it has a lot of flair,
There you
going
go.
going there. So
And yours
I'll,
actually literally matches your outfit.
it
So
does. It does. It
there you go.
even matches my underwear. So, I'm
I
right now
We don't
wearing
need to see
Santa
that, but thank
underwear.
you for letting us know. So if
It's
anybody
just,
was wondering,
it's just an FYI. I'm just putting it out there. I'm
seeing
I'm
what
throwing
sticks.
yeah, I'm throwing that ball, seeing if it's going to go through the hoop or not. You know.
The alarm. Send a piece of wood, usually a branch from a tree without the
You
leaves.
just made my thing go off. And
Sound like it was
literally,
in a different language.
for a second, I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? It was about knowledge or something. I don't know. It was
That's
weird.
funny.
I don't know. I think you did or I did it. I don't know what I said that triggered my. It got a trigger warning on my phone, about knowledge.
Yeah, there
Uh,
you go. Yeah, don't do that. That knowledge is bad. So
knowledge.
the less you
Knowledge
know,
is
the
good,
better.
everybody. Don't listen to John. Knowledge is usually pretty good. Um, it depends where you're getting your knowledge from, though, I guess. So we're here, yeah. So we'll talk. Let's get into your film career, buddy. So first of all, when you were a child, were you always into like wanting to do movies, or is it something that you found later in life?
I It was when I was probably around 10. I wanted to be a cop. My grandfather was a cop, and I wanted to be a cop. And I was probably going to go into the military and then come out and be in law enforcement, because that's what he did. And then I saw that movie, Well, a couple movies that came out at my young age. One called Star Wars, another one called Close Encounters, another one called Jaws, and that pretty much did it. So that was, and I didn't want to do that anymore, and I wanted to make movies after that. So then everything became about that. So Army, police force, that just went away.
It's
So
crazy how many people I hear that say they wanted to become a an actor or a filmmaker or whatever because they saw Star Wars, like or Indiana Jones or one of George Lucas's many enterprises and stuff. And I
because
think that's amazing.
yeah, because nothing like that had come out before. We had like, 2001 A Space Odyssey and there were these other things, but you never had this, because 2001 is so trippy and so existential and Star Wars was made for 10-year-olds. It was
Hmm.
made for me. How they say that
At that
today,
time, yeah. Yeah, at that
yeah,
time it was for you.
this movie wasn't made for you. It was made for me. Well, back then, my mother couldn't understand it. She's just like, I don't get it. And I'm like, because this movie was made for me. I wouldn't say that to her because that wasn't a thing back then, but it was. I I owned all the toys. My mother was happy to get rid of me. So she was perfectly fine with dropping me off at the theater and be like, "Oh yeah, go see Star Wars for the 10th time." That was not a problem. Close Encounters or anything like that. And
Hmm.
I was a big drive-in kid. My mom would always take me Fridays or Saturday nights to the drive-in, and one was in San Rafael, which is where they've shot a lot of like THX 1138. They also shot American Graffiti. So a lot of that was all Lucas area, like Lucas
Hmm.
town basically. And so we would always go there, and that's surprisingly that's also where I saw a lot of Charles Band movies without knowing who Charles Band was. Stuff like Laser Blast and The Day the Time Ended and all that stuff played up on the big screen, up in
Hmm.
that drive-in. And so I have very fond of memories that a lot of people unfortunately don't have of going to the drive-in and seeing movies on film and hitting the concession stand with a big thing of popcorn and
Right.
and it was just a great experience. And so my mom would just either do that with me at night or she would just drop me off during the day. And like I said, I owned all the toys. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but is Fox never knew how big Star Wars was going to be.
Hmm.
And Lucas was smart enough to go, you know what? You could take everything. I want the friggin' toys.
Yep.
And all them like, whatever. So they never brought toys out. And the toys were in a massive demand. So they brought out this rectangle box that had the pictures of the toys, like the figures. And when you lifted up the top, you it had the little places where the toys would go, but it was empty. And there was a certificate that you would mail in. And this was a massive Christmas gift. Can you imagine a kid not getting toys? They got an
Right.
empty box. And you would send the certificate in. And then when they made the toys, they mailed them out to you. And you could put the figures inside the box.
Hmm.
And that to me was the most amazing thing ever as a kid. So from there on, I collected Star Wars. I wanted the any books I could get or whatever. Back when I was a kid, you could buy movie programs and books and stuff at the theater. Yeah, you could buy stuff like that, at the
Now,
theater.
yeah, I have oh wow, really cool. Yeah, I have a whole collection. I think you know this. Not many people might, but I collect the Star Wars Legends, and stuff and books because I mean they're usually like $5 used, and I'm not there collecting them so I can resell them or something. I'm collecting them for my own personal thing of like I'm doing that now with Supernatural. So I'm gonna collect all the Supernatural books, and
Okay, yeah,
everything.
yeah, you're a big fan of
And
that.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, anything I'm a big fan. If they make Ghostbusters books at some point, which I think they're planning to at some point, I think. I'll
as
I'll
well.
collect those and for you, it was Star Wars that got you into movie making and stuff. For me, it was Ghostbusters and Turtles and stuff like that, the cartoons that I grew up on that were also live action movies.
Well, and our books lied. So you would Star Wars came out, you wanted more, and so they came out with the novelization, which said written by George Lucas, which it
Right.
wasn't. It wasn't written by George
I
Lucas.
have that because I have all three of them, the three novelizations, trilogy in one book. It's pretty cool.
Okay. And then Close Encounters was the same thing, written by Steven Spielberg. It wasn't. We all
He doesn't
thought
have
it
time for that
was.
crap,
Yeah, I mean they had a ghostwriter come in, which was most likely Alan Dean Foster, and write all these things, but it was still great to have. But
Hmm.
that was, you know, my mother, on top of doing the drive-in and dropping me off at the theater, would plot me in front of the TV set.
Hmm.
And especially on Saturdays, that's where the monstrous movie came on, or Chiller Diller. And the monstrous movie was from like 1 to 2, and that was like Godzilla or
Right.
King Kong. And then from 2 to 4 would be Chiller Diller, which was like Frankenstein, Dracula, like the Hammer movies. They play censored versions of the Hammer movies or the Universal monster movies. And that's where I fell in love with horror movies. So I was a
See,
huge, you know, horror and sci-fi fan by that point.
interestingly enough, I had a different sort of upbringing with the television because you were more like what 70s, television and stuff like that and whatnot, right? Like maybe early
Yeah,
80s,
I
you
mean,
know?
I'm considered as an 80s kid, but yeah, I mean, I grew up during the 70s. So yeah, because I was
Right.
born in 67.
Right.
So
So 70s was more of your childhood, and then your teenhood and stuff were more 80s.
were the
So
80s, yeah.
yeah. So your childhood and so mine was childhood was 80s and early 90s, And so cuz I was 82, so I was, was it 82? It was like what into like 92 or no 93 or 4 was when I got into like middle school, right? And stuff. So 90, those times period that the stuff on television was different. Like I remember watching a show called Ghost Rider that I'm sure you never watched, It's a PBS show, for kids and everything. It was about this like little ghost that went around and helped these kids solve mysteries that was helping, right? It was like Scooby Doo with a ghost that wrote stuff, you know,
Okay.
and everything. And it was fun for me to watch that stuff. They tried to remake that recently on Apple, and it's a completely different show. Didn't even have like any like it shouldn't have even been called Ghost Rider. It just was, different. And Neil Patrick Harris was in it. It was just like weird. It's like whatever. But anyway, the point is, like, I grew up on that, or Nickelodeon and not Disney, Nickelodeon and like TGIF and stuff like that. So those were my childhood. And on Saturdays, I just played with my friends most of the time outside, and then came back in and watched Nickelodeon shows, all day. That was pretty much my life as a kid. But it was a little bit different than yours because I didn't know we didn't when I was growing up, we didn't really have monster movies that I remember, on television.
Oh,
Um,
we had a ton of them because we also had late night on Fridays and Saturdays was Creature Features with Bob Wilkins, and then it became John Stanley, and they became massively famous. And then when Bob Wilkins left Creature Features, he did he had his own show. Oh God, it's oh God, Bob Wilkins. It's oh crap, I'm blanking on his show that he did during the day for kids, and that had Ultraman and Space Giants and stuff like that on it. And then all the other people came out, like Commander USA and stuff like that. So yeah, that's was my whole life, was basically those type of shows.
yeah,
And
I'm trying to look at the Bob Wilkins.
Captain
Gotcha.
Cosmic. That was it.
Captain Cosmic. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
and he never showed his face. That was the thing. We all knew what he looked like, but he would never show his face.
nice.
Except there's one shot in the credits where the visor does come down, and you could see at the very beginning, like the visor, and so that was our big thing for a long time. And then VHS, of course, came around and watched more horror movies on VHS, and then started discovering like holiday horror movies. And then the Christmas ones were the ones that I was
Yeah.
most attracted to. And
Like Silent
I
Night, Deadly Night, I'm sure.
well and I mean the two films that influenced Maximus in one and two the most, yeah, are Silent Night, Deadly Night, which I originally saw in the theater with Mr. Cliff Macmillan in San Francisco. And we saw it at there's probably a few of us who went, but there was like the Electric, the St. Francis. There were all these theaters that you could go to, and they would play multiple movies, just bad movies. And this was one of them. And a lot of the times we go to these theaters where I remember once Cliff looked straight up and there's a hole in the roof, and you could actually see the stars. So
That's
luckily it
crazy.
wasn't raining, but then you could look to your left and there was a guy getting a BJ from a hooker, and then you could look to your right, and then you would see, a guy shooting up.
Right.
So those are the type of theaters that played this type of stuff. And we saw it before they did like the big band on it and everything. And
And
so
then Cliff put that out, if I'm
yeah,
correct.
this is Scream Factory. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, produced by Mr. Cliff Macmillan. So it's I have a whole display of this up on my wall. I have a whole shelf that displays all the movies, and I got this poster hanging above it.
That's awesome.
And so this was a massive, massive influence along with Scream.
Scream, I can see that. I can see it.
I mean,
Uh,
it's been pointed out in some reviews for Aximus that it's very Scream, that the motivation of the killers is very Scream, and that was
right.
not it was intentional but not intentional. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but
Hmm.
because I was such a huge fan of Scream at the time, I didn't care. So if somebody said, "Oh yeah, it's a little Scream," it's like fine, whatever.
A
I
little
don't
much
mind.
like
That's okay.
Scream, yeah.
Yeah, and then in the first film, I'm wearing I have a cameo at the end where I have like a clown suit that I have over my shoulder, and that's from Philip Tricky, that he did Clown Motel Massacre. So that was the costume from that. And then for Aximus 2 Blood Slay, I have the Ghostface costume over my shoulder, which was very intentional. So that was done completely on purpose. So these are the two films that without these, I don't think I would have done Aximus. But when in the 90s, when I was going to Los Angeles City College to going to their film school, I did come up with the title Aximus. And so it's been around for a very long time, and I just didn't know what to do with it. Um, and then when I started working at a storage facility, um, I came up with an idea about a killer living inside a storage unit. And it was just boring. It just wasn't interesting. He was just killing people inside the storage unit. And once I said, well, what if it was a Santa Claus
Mm.
that was killing people? All of a sudden, all this stuff came to me. And I sat down and I watched a ton of Christmas horror movies. And each Xmas is 30 minutes. And the next two, Xmas 3 and 4, will also be 30 minutes each. Thanks to Terrifier 3, they're gonna go into two very different directions. So
Okay.
from what I had originally planned, but um, once that Santa Claus thing came in, that's it just kind of took off for me. And then having the storage facility, and they always say, you know, one, write what you know. Well, I know storage facilities and I know horror movies. And then I got to shoot there twice for free.
Uh-huh.
So that didn't cost any money at all. So that way, that saved a lot. So the first Maximus was, I think it cost me around $500. And then the second one was, I want to say $800 because of the visual effects that were in it that Joe Lujan
Nice.
did. That's before I really even knew Joe. We weren't friends yet. I just knew that he did visual effects. So there's three effects. So each one was like $100. So 300 was put on there because of the visual effects. Otherwise, it was 500. So
Well, that's really cool. That's nice that he does. Does he actually, I mean, is it just you or does he actually offer that to many people like that might
oh no,
be?
it's one of his jobs. He'll design posters. He'll do visual effects. He'll edit. It's one of his jobs. It's how he pays his rent. So
I may be maybe talking to him soon then, because the guy that I want as my special effects guy just has not communicated with me. That sucks. We got to get some titles and stuff done and things like that, and some other blood splatter. So, I might be hitting up Mr. Luan. So we'll see. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, and he's good and he's quick and
I also like him a lot. Like I think he's just a nice
oh,
guy.
Joe's a really good guy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good I've made this comment to him a few times and also during Q&As that Joe's the type of guy that could take, like a rubber band, a piece of tape in a paper clip and make a whole movie out of that. It would look like, like the Starship Enterprise. That it's amazing of what he can do. So it was our relationship is different now. So when we do Axis 3 and 4, because he's going to be at least shooting part 3, uh, um, you know, it's different than when it was when I didn't know him, when I just knew him as an effects artist, but or a visual effects artist. But it's the person that keeps being amazed by this is Miranda Dudley, my friend and effects artist, is that she is amazed of what Axis has actually done, that it does
Hmm.
have like this little cult following, that it's become kind of this thing that we had originally thought that it would just be a 30-minute short that would just be forgotten. And what had happened was I wanted to is I had shot, well, I was working on John Seymour's film, and so I was like a kind of like what I do now. I do a little bit of everything on people's films.
Right.
And I have like a little acting bit in his. Originally it was called Drug Z. I forget what's called now. It is out. Has a different title though. And I worked on that and kind of went, wow, it really doesn't take that many people to make a movie these days. And
Hmm.
that's where I met Ashley Campbell. Um, and then one day, David Sterling called up and said, "Hey, I'm making this movie up at the Clown Motel, called Clown Motel. Do you want to work on it? I can't pay you. You'd be up there for like 3 days, shooting this thing like 3 or 4 days." And then that's where I met Philip Tricky, OGP.
You also met my
And
friend Morgan.
yes, and Morgan was up there too, Morgan Freeman. And
It's,
she
I had her phone number in my phone as Morgan Freeman, just so that if people like, because that is her actual name. But like, if people were like, "Who's calling?" Oh, Morgan Freeman's calling me. I gotta go.
Well, and now there's three of them because there's Morgan Freeman, the one that we all know, the actor, and then there's Morgan J. Freeman, the director, and then there's Morgan Freeman, the actress. So
Well,
that both of
Morgan
them.
Tyler, the actress. That's what so she changed her name to Morgan Tyler because, like, I remember when the director of shit, man, my brain is she did a school movie like a almost like kind of like a Breakfast Club kind of thing, and Getting Schooled it was called, and Chuck
Oh
Norfolk
yeah,
who
yeah, I've seen
directed
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chuck Norfolk who directed it contacted me and said you should have Morgan on your show, and Morgan Free, but you have to Well, no, I asked him because I saw it and I said she was really good. I said, who is that? And he was like, that's Morgan Freeman, but she goes by Morgan Tyler, obviously, and stuff. And I just thought that was so funny. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, they were all everybody was okay. I was a little bit of an outcast, I think, as I was older and I was the killer. I was the killer clown in that. And so people and they were all around the same age, like early 20s. So I was a little bit of an outcast on that. And I didn't really Miranda and I bonded and we became friends from that film because she did all the like the effects and makeup. So we became friends and we still are, and she does all of my
she's sweet.
effects. So yeah, yeah, Miranda and I are very good friends. And but it was these two movies where I went, wow, it only takes like a handful of people to make a movie.
Hmm.
Why maybe I can do Maximus. And then that's where the ideas started coming in. And I got in contact. Brad Twigg had put out a like a post on Facebook saying, "Hey, I'm looking for films to be on this anthology that I'm making." And oh crap, I hate being old. And
Frames of Fear 2,
thank you,
or-
Frames of Fear 2. I
which
appreciate
later
that.
got changed to Brutality through what is it? Wild Eye releasing's their dark version or whatever.
Yeah,
Their
I got
raw
that up.
and
Yeah, that's right up there is
uh,
that version of it. Yeah, they changed which has like nothing to do with the movie, but okay, it's still being released by Wild Eyes. So
well, I think it's because they already released Frame of Fears 2 themselves, so they don't want to like, I guess, they had to change the title so that because then people would have to ask like where's Frames of Fear 1 in the Wild Eye thing. So they had to change the title and then they put the Raw and Unnerved or whatever thing that they do on it, which I
right.
don't maybe it is Raw. I don't know. I've never saw the whole thing. I need to watch that at some point because it's on Tubi.
Yeah, and it's he just put out this post saying, I'm looking for filmmakers to add short films to Frames of Fear 2. And I messaged him. He had, he never met me or anything. And I just said, hey, I have this this idea. Is it possible that I could put something on your anthology? And well, I like your idea, Killer Santa in the storage facility. Do you have a script? And I said, well, I can get that to you pretty fast. And he goes, okay, well, it just, it needs to be like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15, 20. He's like, don't, I don't want to do like an hour. But so I wrote 30 pages and sent it to him. And he goes, if you can make what's on this page as a movie, you have a guaranteed spot on the film. And so I said, okay. And I immediately went out because I had already worked with John and all the people on Drug Z. So then I went to them and there was like, Kurt who was shooting Drug Z. I had him shoot Aximus. Stephanie did some makeup on it, his girlfriend. Miranda would do the effects. And then I got some of the actors on there, Mikey and O'Brien and Lindsay Pruse and some other people that and then did a little bit of casting through some of those actors. And John Seymour was the one who said, I want to be the Killer Santa. And
Mm.
John is like 6'4", something like that. He's really tall and big. And I thought he was joking. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And he's like, no, seriously, I want to be the Killer Santa. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of looked at John's Santa as more of like the Frankenstein monster,
Hmm.
where he's being, controlled. And so it's a where something like Drew Marvick would be, I always consider him to be like a bull,
Hmm.
kind of like What's the X-Men that goes through all the walls?
Um, oh, like that actually just runs through all the walls, like not
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he's
doesn't.
he's yeah, he's got the head with like the metal on
Oh,
it.
oh,
It just
oh, oh.
runs through the walls.
God, what was his name? He came back in
Ramrod or
Deadpool.
something,
He came
or
back in Deadpool and Wolverine, if I'm correct. That was the um, what's the big? If you're thinking of who I'm thinking of, it was the she wasn't Sabretooth. No, that's stupid. Not Colossus. Is it? No, it's not
yeah, I mean,
Colossus.
ultimately, it doesn't matter. People know who it is, and so that's kind of how
Juggernaut.
I
Juggernaut.
Juggernaut. Yeah, so that's kind of how I looked at Drew Marvick, was that he would just go through like two or three walls to get to his victim, and John did all of his one-liners. I didn't write any of those.
Hmm.
So my one-liners were awful. They were just Freddy Krueger one-liners.
Yeah.
Here's sticking it to you, bitch. That bitch was a big thing that I used in the script a lot. And then Miranda did, like I said, all the effects, and we shot at the storage facility after hours, late at night, probably like around 11 to, I want to say,
Hmm.
5. And it was during February. So it was cold as hell out there. So when Kamikyo, I think I'm saying her name right, when she comes into the office at the beginning and she's wrapped in a blanket and she says, "I'm freezing," that was her. That was actually her
You just
line.
got it on video of her saying that.
Yeah, she came in and her line was something totally different, but she was so cold outside, it was just like, can we go? I'm freezing. And because she's standing outside for so long that she had to have a blanket put on her. And so it just kind of worked out to where she said that line in there. And if you notice from Silent Night, Deadly Night, Billy and Ricky's names are mentioned as the owners of the company. It's called Chapman Storage because
Hmm.
it's like Billy and Ricky Chapman, and so there's a lot of nods. All the character names are mostly taken from all the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies.
Wasn't Billy also the name of the guy from Black Christmas?
Yeah,
The killer from Black Christmas or whatever? Billy,
people like using Billy for some reason.
I mean,
Um,
Billy's an easy name, you know.
yeah. Well, and the first film completely takes place at the storage facility.
Right.
So it doesn't, and it took, I want to say it took a couple months to edit the film and get it all to where we wanted it because we needed to get it to Brad. So once we shot it, and Brad was really happy that we did it, that we just needed to get it to him. Um,
Hmm.
like on every film, there's issues. Sometimes there are things that just happen, and sometimes there's people issues. I won't go
Sometimes you can't
into
control that, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into that because it was so long ago, but there were delays in getting the film done for various reasons, and but it got worked out and then got sent to Brad, and then he put it on Frames of Fear 2, and it did well, and people liked it, and so I made a deal with Brad that whenever I would make an Axis movie, he would put it on one of his anthologies.
Nice.
And then I also um, did a deal with Scream Time Films
For
that
physical release too, for another physical release.
yeah, so then that way it would just be by itself through Scream Time, and then and the special features that were on both discs would be different. So like a
Okay.
trailer would be the same, but the audio commentary, let's say for Brad, would be different than Scream Time.
That's good. Because
Yeah,
then
so then
that's just that's different stuff for the fans of Axmas to get some more stuff for them.
Yeah, and it was, they said it was very cold shooting, and there was no incidents, there were no problems with shooting at all. It was fine, and we were still trying to kind of get our footing on stuff. So there are technical errors in the movie,
Hmm.
which is okay. It was my first film, and
Right.
Miranda was still kind of learning, so some of the, like, the effects in Xmas 2 are better. So, but
Hmm.
we're all learning. My directing was better in Xmas 2, the writing was better. So it just became in so this is the that
Nice.
this is the DVD for Xmas here. So this would be Scream Time Films, and this was, yeah, 2018.
Wow. Feels
And
like so
then,
long ago, even though it really wasn't that long ago.
right. And then he did kind of like a re-release of it where it's a little shinier, and he changed it to, I'm
Nice.
not sure which one came first, to be honest. I think this one might have come first, and then the one with the white with the blood. No, I think the white with the blood came first, and then this one. Um, and the and then he did, yeah, like you were saying. So Frames of Fear 2. So this is what it originally came on,
Right.
which I was really, really, really happy about. That
Hmm.
the very first thing that I did got distribution.
Well, it's really funny to see, uh, because because they did release it as brutality on IMDb too, and it's like I wonder how many like versions does it say like on IMDb? I guess it's only two. It's got brutality, and then at the bottom it says originally called Frames of Fear 2, right? And then it says, and then you've got your Axmas shorts also listed. So everybody's gets like more than one credit, just and it's the same movie, right? So it's like Axmas and then, and then brutality as well.
Yeah, actually, until you brought up brutality, I completely forgot about it, or else I pulled it down because that's all the Wild Eye stuff is right here. But yeah, so there'd be three. So there'd be Frames of Fear 2, and then also Maximus by itself from Screamtime Films, and that's, Todd Cook, and then there would be
Brutality
the
one.
Wild Eye. Yeah.
But
So,
did that happen with the sequel too? Did Wild Eye pick up the sequel?
well, in here, and I'll show this, and then because now this is the deluxe edition of Frames of Fear 2.
Nice.
So
So
it's
that
got
has
a,
like special features and stuff, right?
yeah, this has, and it's numbered, so this is 32 of 50. I got it autographed by some of the other directors. Um, and it's got like cards in it and stuff
Yeah, I have
from
that Fiendish
some of,
Fables movie. Yeah, I have a bunch of Brad's movies. Brad's gifted, I love watching his stuff.
yeah. And then this, the director of The Last Days of Livermore signed this and sent it to me. That's part of the anthology. So this is, yeah, this is a deluxe edition of it, that audio commentary with all five directors plus trailer. And yeah, this one has the same thing too. I don't, I think that this one just has a different cover and it's numbered. I think that's the big
Ah,
difference.
okay.
So, and I came up with this. This is my, Brad was asking me, he goes, God, I need like a tagline for it. And I said, well, since it's part two, why don't you go Jaws 2 instead of, just when you thought it was safe to go back to the water, why don't you go, just when you thought it was safe to go back to the VCR?
Nice.
And so he changed it just slightly, just when he thought it was safe to use the VCR. So it's a
Oh,
little different than the Jaws thing, but that's my
well, that was
idea for it.
probably a better idea. You don't want to get into too much trouble, even though it's parody, still, better
Right.
better to be more original, you know.
Well, and also with, which is pretty cool, is Scream Time Films then brought this out. This is the stuff that Miranda is very really surprised about. Is just like, wow, how this little movie that we made has legs. So this is the Screambox DVD collection, and that's Another Evil Night is on the back, and Maximus is on the front.
That's awesome.
So you get a whole bunch of, and he's still doing this. But he has a whole bunch of different movies that you can order for like X amount of
That's
money.
right. That's right. I've actually talked to him about that. I think it was like 25 to 35 bucks or something, and you can get like
Yeah,
7 movies or whatever or more.
yeah. There's a whole bunch of them in here, and so I ordered Axis 2, Bloody Drama, a whole bunch of them. Curse of the Slasher Nurse. I mean, just a whole bunch of movies that I hadn't seen yet that I had an interest in.
Oh, you put
So
out Curse of Slashers? Nice.
yeah, yeah.
I have that too, but I got that from my buddies at Slasher 15 Productions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you can order. These aren't the ones that you get. These are just the ones that I picked. You could pick from something like 20 different movies to go
Mm-hmm.
inside the box. You can also pick the cover that you want. So I'm going to pick Maximus, obviously.
All
But
right.
yeah, there's like, Sleepover, Within the Woods of the Undead County, which is one I wanted to see, still haven't though. Remy's Demons, Semester's End, Johnny Ghoulish Escapes from Cretinville.
Yeah, that's I believe that's Matt Cloud's movie.
Okay. In the Devil's Courthouse. Yeah, Curse of the Slasher Nurse, Bloody Drama, Axis 2, and then Aximus. So,
Yeah, you got
and
a whole
it's,
collection there.
yeah. So
And you
I'm
could get
so
more too. Like there was like over 30 titles that you could get, you know.
yeah, well, and he does it whenever there's a new movie out, you can add it to one of these box sets. He has different ways of doing it. He has box sets that have lights. So like if a character has, but like for example on here, like he might put lights for their eyes and they
Hmm.
light up. There's like a little battery.
That's cool.
So yeah, Screen Time Films. I was surprisingly the person who recommended Screen Time Films to me was Dustin Ferguson.
Yeah. Well,
So so I thank him for that because Todd has gotten Maximus on places like Tubi, Freevee, Prime, Amazon Prime.
yeah, all
Uh
over the place.
yeah, it's on a bunch of different services. I got
Kings
it
of Horror,
on
I think, is on there too. It's on
Kings
Kings
of
of.
Horrors. I did that one myself.
Oh, okay.
Um uh but I told him, I said in the future we need to get the Aximus stuff on there.
Well, yeah, the
And
Kings of
so
Horror is the big thing.
yeah. And I guess it's done pretty well. The reviews have been horrible, but I mean I remember when Aximus came out and this woman reviewed it calling it an abortion.
I
And
guess
I
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, and I put it up on Facebook because I thought, at first it hurt my feelings, and then I thought, well, no, that's actually kind of funny, and why somebody would take this little movie so seriously to call it an abortion, when it really is just a dumb Santa Claus movie that takes place at a storage facility. Um, and while other critics, sat there and said, oh, obviously the person who wrote and directed this works at a storage facility because he's using storage lingo. He's telling you about the storage facility. He's giving you times. And, so obviously this person, knows what he's doing. He could probably use it for free. But then I found that review to be funny and people didn't like that I put that up. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking it down because I think it's hilarious. You have to have a sense of humor about these type of things.
Um, what was I gonna say? So, you also have one guy who crapped on my film, Scary Story Slumber Party, but loves your films, all your stuff and everything like that. I just think that's hilarious, which is funny because like people are like, you're right. Like people, I will post negative reviews all the time and kind of laugh at them. And people go, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't post negative reviews. You have to post everything that's no." Because like look, one person's treasure is another person's piece of trash, you know? And
Sure.
just because somebody doesn't like my stuff doesn't mean that they're not going to like your stuff, right? Or whatever. And if they like your stuff, or they don't like your stuff, but they like my stuff, then like whatever. It doesn't matter. That's why we have so many different filmmakers making so many different films. And hopefully, to me, honestly, if you make something, because for as a filmmaker, how fucking hard it is just to get anything done these days,
Oh
Like
yeah,
you
yeah. It's scheduling is the worst possible thing
scheduling
ever.
is the
Scheduling
worst.
is
And
harder than making the movie itself.
I mean, unless you did a movie literally where it's you and somebody else and you guys, and even then you might have problems getting the other person to be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like it's a pain in the ass.
Well, and I think one of the reasons why the Axis stuff, and this goes also along with Meat Hook Massacre 4, and Meat Hook Massacre 4 is considered to be the best one in the series, and I think there's now like 12 of them. Is my stuff
And
looks
counting, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah, my stuff looks Hollywood because that's where I want to work. I don't want to be an independent filmmaker. I want to work in Hollywood. I want to make Die Hard movies and Lethal Weapon movies, and I want somebody to see Axmis and go, "Hey, let's get that guy to direct the next Halloween or the next Freddy Krueger movie or something like that." That's the goal. So my
Hmm.
stuff looks more, it's shot on professional cameras. It has professional sound. It's got good lighting. It's got, I have people who know how to edit. I have I write with a Hollywood mentality
Hmm.
of, I'm not making a movie just so I can watch it. I'm writing a movie so other people can watch it too. And
Right.
and so I think that's why these stand out a little bit more than somebody who just shoots their movie on their phone. And so they've had this kind of life I think because of that, because I think people, I've shown these films to, like, I'll tell coworkers, go and, hey, I've made these movies, go watch them. And a lot of them are coworkers that work at a storage facility. And they'll be like, okay, these are good. These are actually pretty good. I expected them to be shot on your phone in your backyard. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, this is professional stuff,
Well,
you know?
I think that's why you and I bond so well about things because like our whole life is wanting to be in Hollywood, making Hollywood movies, right? Like I didn't when I was a kid, I grew up on Ghostbusters, you grew up on Star Wars. Those are two franchises that have been huge, huge
Right.
hits and everything. And the whole point is that when we got into filmmaking, it was so that you would be directing well, not anymore, but that you would be directing a Star Wars movie originally. That's what you probably wanted. You're like, I want to do that. I want to make
Yeah.
but then, for me, it was always, I wanted to make a Ghostbusters movie. Now I just want to make a movie like Ghostbusters, my own franchise that's, that people will look at like Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? Like where people go, "Oh my God, I want to make movies because I enjoyed that movie." I want to eventually do that, like, because I want to inspire people. And I think you feel the same way because you're making movies on a very low budget, short films on a very low budget that and featured, with the Meat Hope Massacre that people can look at and go, wow, he made that? Like,
Well,
that's
and yeah, and when you look at something like the original Meat Hook Massacre, from when I was talking to Ferguson about it, it was like the first movie cost $100, the second movie cost like $300, the third movie, which he didn't make, cost something like $600, and then you get to the fourth film and it's $3,000. So there's going to be a huge difference in quality of doing that. And then after part four, it went back to $200 or $300, $400, $500. Like none of them ever hit.
and you sort of can see the change in the quality and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah, the definite change. And I mean, in Axman's went into festivals. It was not at a ton of them. I didn't know how that worked at the time. And because also during all of this, including Meat Hook Massacre 4, I had no idea how to use a camera. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to light. I didn't know how to do any of that. I had no idea at all. And it was basically I had to for like Meat Massacre 4, I had to take over because the cameraman said that he only wanted to shoot the stuff that was shot out in Pahrump. And then I took over for all the rest of it. So I had to learn how sound worked and how the camera worked and
Hmm.
lighting worked. And I don't think that there's really much of a difference in the two and how they look. So then I started shooting all my own stuff or taking more control of it. So, but when we did Aximus 2, Dustin had seen Aximus and said, "Do you want to do part 4?" And I said, "Well, I need to make Aximus 2 first." And the problem with doing, and he said, "That's fine." But the problem was, how do you do a sequel when your killer is dead?
Right.
Because his head gets cut off at the end of part.
Spoiler alert. Jeez.
I know. Well, that it was supposed to be fountains of blood, and we just
Right.
couldn't get it to work. So it was this one long stream.
Yeah, I
But
saw.
when Ashley cuts the head off and the blood hits her in the face and on the
Hmm.
wall, and that blood that's dripping down her eye, that's from her cutting the head off.
Nice.
We didn't apply that blood. When she hit the head and it spewed, it squirted blood, it sprayed in her face and on the wall. So that there's that great shot of the camera looking at her where she just has this long stream of blood that's almost like a long tear coming from her eye. And we didn't put that there. That just was a total accident.
It
And
was an accident. Uh,
yes,
accident.
yes, accident, yes,
Yeah, you're just
yes.
like I can even say that.
That's, but when, so, and then Brad asked if I was going to do a part 2. Todd asked if I was going to do a part 2. And I said, yeah, but how do you do that when you you decapitated your killer? So one of my ideas was that Ashley, her character Sarah, would be living at the beach because I wanted to shoot at the beach because I love the beach,
mhm.
and
Who
that
doesn't?
she would, I don't, yeah, if you don't like the beach, you're crazy,
Hmm.
and especially to live there, and just the sound of the ocean.
I
Oh,
don't
just
know how Paul feels because he likes the cold, so he doesn't like the heat.
go live in Alaska. There's you could still.
He wants to live in Italy. Italy's cold enough, I guess. I don't know.
Well, there you go. And so one thought was she's on the beach, she's recovering a year later, and she's having these almost kind of like Slumber Party Massacre 2 visions. Like John keeps coming to her in her dreams, but he doesn't have his head. He's carrying around his head.
Yeah,
And then at some point, he does put the head back on and he uses a stapler
right.
to secure it.
That would be
And
cool.
yeah, and I thought, no, I don't want to do this. That's not. And then I met Drew Marvick, who has the big long beard, and he's got a very Santa presence about him. And I gave him money for I did one of the crowdfunding things for a pool party massacre, and we met and had lunch, and he gave me all the perks, and we started talking, and I'm just like, shit, this dude looks like Santa Claus. What if he was the killer in the second one? What if we once again kind of went back to Scream or even Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 and continued with the family? And so, and there's people had brought up, and this was in a couple of the reviews, the age difference between John and Dylan. So Dylan being who in the first film, for people who don't know, was dating Sarah, and he is the one who gets them all into the storage facility. And then that's the big twist, is that he's one of the killers. Well, there's about a 20 age gap between Dylan and John. And so people are like, wow, that's like a weird age gap. Well, so I brought in Ben Stober, who's like 30. So you have Dylan, who's like 20. You have John, who's like,
30, 40.
yeah, probably like close to 40. And then you have Ben, who's in the middle. And that was, and so, okay, so now we have that, but we still don't have a killer. And it was like, well, let's bring Drew in as the uncle, as Uncle Chris. And so we're kind of doing this hierarchy thing of now he's got the
And
nice. Santa suit. He's got two axes instead of one. And
And he's Chris, like, and they made mention like Chris Kringle, just like in the first movie, it was Saint Nick.
yeah, and Ashley has been through this once before. This is nothing new, or Sarah. This is nothing new to her. So when she hears the whole thing of Uncle Chris and she makes the comment, you mean like Chris Kringle? And Ben's like, no, what am I, 8 years old? What am I, stupid? His name is Chris and he's my uncle. And it's so she's kind of been there, done that type of thing. But Ben, I cast because when I met him, which was on Drug Z, we wanted to work together. And Ben was like the nicest guy ever. And I thought, I want him to play the killer. He absolutely has to be the killer in this. And he did. And Ben is a little bit of a religious guy. So in the script, I do say that he kicks Ashley several times. Face, stomach, back and all that. He wouldn't kick her, which was fine. He like starts to kick her, then stops, and then he used I think like fuck was every other word, and so he wouldn't do every other word. So, but he does say fuck a few times, but not as much of what's in the script. It's like that's fine. Um, and so the idea was that Ben goes out on a date with Ashley. He was going to drug her, but she finds out that he's related to the killers for the first movie, and uh, he knocks her out, brings her to the storage facility, um, and that's where Uncle Chris and Eric, I believe is his name, for Eric Freeman from Silent Night, Deadly Night Part Two.
Ah, there's
Um,
that reference.
yeah. Oh, there's Linnea because of Linnea Quigley from
I know,
Part
I saw
One.
Linnea, and that's the first thought in my head was Linnea, quickly.
It's going to continue that way. So until I run out of names to use, I'll start then using crew members or something like that. But and then Tommy Vegas is there, and she lived
There's got
out
to be a
here.
Ralphie, from Christmas Story. There's got to be a Ralphie, just
When I
randomly.
run out of names, I can start doing other Christmas stuff. Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
other Christmas movies, not just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I got to go through all the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, and then I can move on to other stuff. So, but Tommy Vegas is in it. She lived here in Vegas, and she,
Okay, you know her personally, right? Other than working with
yeah,
her, like you pretty much know her. Her real last name is not Vegas, right? Can you say that or not
that
or
I don't know. That I don't know.
because it's interesting, like Tommy Vegas lives in Vegas, like it just seems too on the nose that it feels like that has to be a fake name.
Well,
So
like both you and I know Taylor Kilgore, and I
mm.
said that can't be your last name because you make horror movies. That's perfect. Kilgore. What a perfect last name. And she goes, no, that's my last name.
It's funny because I went to, I think I told you about it, but I went to a Barnes and Noble up in Hampton, Virginia, and it was located on Kilgore Avenue.
Oh,
Just that's just awesome to me.
yeah.
Like to see that, because I love Taylor. We all love Taylor. She's the
Oh yeah,
sweetest.
she's awesome. Oh yeah.
She's got to be
If
an
it,
Xmas 3. Just cast her.
she 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 may be. She might be. I have an idea, but I still want her in Ghoul, and she's going to play
Cool.
the Ghoul because my thing that I wanted for Ghoul with her is I wanted to work with somebody who I thought was beautiful, and I think Taylor is beautiful. I think that she's absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely stunning.
And but I wanted to do like Charlize Theron with Monster is I want to make her ugly. So I want to take somebody who's beautiful and turn her into this horrible looking ghoul. And so you
Girl,
could
like
see
pretty girls love that because they normally play the pretty girl. They don't play the monster. They don't play the
sure.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And but with Tommy Vegas is I met a few people on this film called Scare Me. And that's where Tom came in, Tom Fisco, who came in, he played the security guard in
Yeah, I
part
loved him.
two.
I loved him. What did he say? He was like, I don't, in my shirts comes next week,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. Was that an ad line or was that your
That
line?
was his. No, that was his. The flashlight was his. The whole thing about lumens. Don't make me light you up, man. That was his. My coworker read the script for Axibus 2, and she goes, who brings a flashlight to an axe fight? And I went, I'm stealing that. And I put
Good.
it into the script for Tommy to say. Um, but Ben was a great help on part two because he found Nicholas, who played Tommy's boyfriend in it. They're both
Mm.
homeless. And then he found Rose Donahue, who was the news reporter interviewing Philip. And that's my Jaws scene. Uh, um, from the beach where it's, allegedly some swimmers were killed and, or allegedly were injured. So we just redid that, but with
It
storage facility.
it was funny and weird, like that random guy came up. So Paul and I watched a movie that we reviewed by David the Rock Nelson called Miss Werewolf, and it's this really long movie. You would not want to watch it. And in the middle of the movie, David the Rock Nelson starts talking to a person that comes up and kind of like interrupts their movie, you know? Like he's making the movie, and then the guy's like, "Hey, can I, whatever," like talking, and then they start talking to each other. And that's what it sort of reminded me of them, like that guy coming up and just like interrupting a news report, that was happening. I thought that was very funny. And you don't usually see that as much as like where he was like, "Hi mom, hi dad," or whatever, that scene.
So that's Warren Durso. And so he is friends with Matt, who is shooting the film. The original idea for that scene was I wanted Ben in the background, way down there. And as the reporter is interviewing Philip, who's Mr. Chapman, who owns the company, you would see way back there in the background Ben just waving to the camera. And I couldn't get Ben. He wasn't available. So I asked Matt if, do you know anybody maybe who's like a name in Vegas? And he said, "Yeah, I know this guy named Warren, and he owns these like comedy clubs." And so I said, "Okay, well, can he come out?" So that's like a little cameo by kind of like a Vegas legend that's out here that runs these comedy clubs.
But he didn't play himself though, right? He played
He's
like
just he's just annoying tenant is his
right.
title.
You
I
were
I'm
just Tenant, but right, like,
yeah,
which is so interesting to see that thing, like your character both times, popped up. It was like, oh, hold on, I'll, all right, open it up and it's her again. The first time she's crying, the second time she's just like, I'm done with this man. Like
been
walks
there,
off.
done that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Drew says when she goes to kill him, he's like, there may be a part three, and she's like, not in my Maximus story. So I mean, they're already kind of breaking that. They're being a little meta,
Well,
and
it's also reminds me of Scream of like, where was it the Billy is supposed to come up for one last scare, and then he comes up for a second and she shoots him in the head and says, "Well, not in my movie, he doesn't," or whatever. So,
pretty going back to Scream. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the whole thing. It's a well, I mean, a lot of these people like Matt, I met at a film festival. And we just happened to be standing there. And I'm just like, hey, how you doing? And, hey, how are you doing? And we started talking. He said that he's a camera guy. So he shoots commercials and he's done videos and short films and stuff like that. So he came on to shoot the movie with his equipment and his guys. And he also
Mm.
edited the movie and did all of that. Um, and that's where Philip met Matt, and then they went off to do their own stuff together. Um, my thing with a lot of these people is I met them on a film called Scare Me, and like I mentioned, I met Tom there. That's where I met Tommy. That's where I met Matt Justice.
Mark Justice,
That's
Mark
who did I
Justice,
say?
Matt Justice, but it's
Oh,
okay.
Mark Justice. Sorry,
That's
Mark
okay.
Justice. And that was I was asked, how do you audition? And I said, I don't. I just watch, I work on people's movies and watch what the actors do.
Mm-hmm.
So while we were making Scare Me, which we were shooting for, God, like a month, maybe it was long. It was a long filming time. I got to know these people, and it was like, Tom, would you like to play a security guard? Mark, would you like to play angry dad? Because I like to name characters what they are.
You're right.
So, do you want to play angry dad? And then
It
for Tommy,
helps for the audience to go, oh, that was that guy.
yeah, and Mark, he said that he had to leave for a month. He was actually going overseas. And he goes, "Do you want to recast me?" And I said, "No, we'll just wait a month." And so we just shut everything down for a month. So the very opening was the very last thing that we shot.
Nice.
And that took all night because we had to set up the Christmas tree to go through his stomach. And we used mannequin pieces and like two different Christmas trees and a couple different pieces of the Christmas trees because they popped apart. And that was, yeah, so that took an entire day. So a lot of those people that were on Scare Me, or they could have been like Matt's crew and all that, came together for this. And then we shot the first 15 minutes of the movie is at the storage facility. Then that goes to Donna Hamblin's house. So then she plays Ashley's friend.
I loved
And
her in the movie. I thought she was great. She was I also at first I thought she was her therapist or something, and they were just meeting outside or whatever, but then it turned out to be a friend, that wished she was her mother, which I thought was a very I so I had seen the movie, right, like years ago, like when I reviewed it and everything. So I totally forgot, a lot of stuff, and I have a bad memory anyway. So I was like, oh. And then I was like, is she in on it? Like, is she setting this whole thing up? I thought that was where I was gonna go. Like, she was the mother. It was almost like Scream 2, where it was Billy's mother. Once again, Billy. I didn't think about that, but Billy Loomis, also another Billy. I don't know why there's so many Billys in horror, but there are.
Hey, Joe has a character. Joe Luan has a character,
I
a
mean,
killer
Billy.
doll called Billy.
Yeah,
Screen,
there's
Saw Billy.
Billy. Jesus Christ. I gotta
Billy's a
name a
big
character named Billy because I feel like I'm not contributing to the Billy
to the.
Club.
Yeah,
Ha!
yeah,
I
you
didn't
should.
even mean that as a pun, but Billy Club.
Ah, there you go. Well, if you watch Donna's stuff, there's one shot
Hmm.
that would tell you if she's in on this or not.
Which
It's
show is
it's
that?
it's one shot.
Do you
So
remember? Like, or can
yeah.
you?
So if you do you remember when Ashley meets Ben's character at the bookstore?
Hmm.
Which, by the way, so Ben found a lot of these places, and all these places we didn't need a permit. They didn't charge us. So when we shot at the restaurant for the date that Ben and Ashley go on, all we had to do was buy food.
And they let you
Ben
shoot.
is, yeah, Ben is a nice guy. He went in. We used their back room where they would have banquets. So all the noise, all the restaurant noise you hear is real noise. That's
No,
all from the restaurant. We didn't have to add that in. And we actually went back there twice to shoot. And they had no problem with it because whatever cast and crew wanted to stay, I would buy them lunch. So that was the
you're
deal.
catering to them.
Yeah. Well, and the bookstore was the same thing. Oh yeah, you guys can use our warehouse, which is where we were, if just buy some books. So some of
We
us went up and bought like $20 worth of books.
we always say that if you're not gonna pay your actors because you can't, you might as you have to at least feed them,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah. In that place, that tapas place was really good too.
good.
So and so that's one way of doing it for people out there that make independent films is
I'll use that as an example. I'll talk to
don't
my location girl.
yeah, don't just go in, and that's why we have a picture. So there's this establishing shot of the bookstore, there's the establishing shot of the restaurant to advertise for them. And then we shoot there, and if you notice in the restaurant, the glasses have the name of the place on it. And then you just buy food. And then you
Yeah.
just, that was one of the deals. And because we were in a back room and like a banquet room, nobody could see us. So we could
Yeah.
film as long as we wanted to. It didn't matter. And so I wanted to break out of the storage facility for a while. And so that's what we
That's kind of
did.
what I noticed, because it has a little bit of like the beach park kind of thing. And then it's also got the library and then or the bookstore or whatever, and then the restaurant. So like in the house, like there are a ton of different places, other than a storage facility, which I think I liked a lot, because it felt, me, I don't like being stuck in one place, or
Yeah,
whatever
you're not a
for
fan of a one location.
one location.
Yeah, and at the time that's what I had, so that's what I used. But
Well,
it
I don't
for
mind
this,
that. Like, I don't mind it for like short films and stuff like that, where it almost feels like it, because a lot of times it'd only be like a couple scenes or whatever, and it'll be there. So that doesn't bother me. For feature length films, after a while, I get kind of bored. But a storage facility, we watched one movie together, Murder Game, that had a storage
yeah.
facility. I enjoyed. You weren't a huge fan of that one, but that's also because storage facilities a little bit and all this other stuff, and I don't think you agreed with it necessarily, like the way they did that. But me personally, I didn't mind it because the whole movie, even though it was set in this storage facility, there were rooms, there were different things. It wasn't like you were in one room the whole time, you
Well,
know.
and I felt that since we're doing it a year later, that I knew a little bit more. So I wanted to I felt I was maybe a little bit more of a mature writer because I'd written scripts in between that, like a couple feature scripts, and so I wanted it not to just be the same thing. So I wanted different locations to
Hmm.
also boost the production value. And so then, we do go back to the facility, which is where we meet like Tommy and Nicholas, and we get the introduction to Drew. Um, and yeah, because it's Mark at the beginning where he gets killed at the dumpster with the Christmas tree. That thing goes to like Donna's house. That thing goes to the bookstore. That thing goes to the restaurant. That thing goes to my apartment. And that's another thing that people should notice is, and I have this in a couple short films, which is a mistake, is you don't film against an empty wall. And I did that, and that was stupid. So if you notice Ashley on the sofa, there is the edge of a painting, and that's the same painting that's in part one in
Ah.
the swamp cooler room. And that's the other thing. If you could use a place like a storage facility or someplace like that, like a warehouse or a movie theater or whatever it is, take advantage of everything that you can. So
Hmm.
like for the first film, we shot in the office. And then we moved to outside and they walk through the gate and they go down to the entrance where then they get into an elevator, then they go upstairs. They walk around for a little bit so we could kind of get an idea of what the facility is like. They then go into a storage unit, which is we had two storage units that we were shooting in all the time. So one was where the cast could just kind of kick back, have coffee, eat, and then there was another one that we're filming in. So if you actually
Hmm.
look at the numbers never change. They're always the same number. But take advantage of a storage unit, that you can take advantage of stairs. We took advantage of some of the exits, and where like Lindsay falls down the stairs, and Miranda did that effect that creeps people out, where her bone is sticking out of her leg.
Yeah.
Um, and then we split screened it. One of the editors, Morgan, she split screened it so we could go, Lindsay on the bottom and John on top, and then they kind of came together. So you want to take advantage of your locations. So begins in the office, then goes outside, storage facility, inside, and then outside as she leaves through the gate, as Ashley leaves through the gate. And so that would be the same thing with part two. You started at the storage facility in the dumpster area, that thing goes to the other locations. She then ends up back in the storage facility, meets up with Tommy. They go to the storage unit. Uh, uh, Eric gets killed, Ben Stober gets killed, and um, Tommy is the one who kills them, but Drew doesn't know that, so he thinks it's Ashley. He tracks him down, pulls Nicholas out of the unit, kills him, like drags him back in. He opens it, yeah, throws the girls out, traps Nicholas inside, kills him, and then they run. We also took advantage in the first film of the elevator where John goes through, which that was, we almost, it's a good thing that the camera was not stopped
Hmm.
because we didn't think that John was going to make it through the elevator. So so Kurt luckily kept filming as his hand went through and he was able to pull the door back open and get inside. So it worked out really well because he acted more kind of like an animal. And
Yeah, it was like a
so
bull, you know.
yeah, so then he went um and then so kind of like with part two, we went back into the elevator again, but there's no attack, but they're downstairs. And since the storage facility had an upgrade in security, because we were getting a lot of break-ins at the time, because at my facility, Donny Osmond was a tenant. D. Schneider would come in and buy boxes and things. Michael Jackson's dad was a tenant. Morris Day at the time was a tenant. So we had these celebrities, and I knew Donny Osmond. He would come into the office all the time, and he would call me Johnny, and we would talk a lot when he would come in.
Johnny and Donnie.
There you go.
That should
And
be, you should have asked him to do a show with you. Like,
Johnny and Donnie.
you
Well,
know,
it has to be Donnie and Johnny because you got to put him first. You got to put Donnie.
oh, you,
He
and
is,
plus alphabetically, you gotta put him first anyway.
yeah, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Really nice guy. And so I told corporate, I'm like, I got celebrities here. We can't have break-ins. So they upped all the security, which didn't work. This guy just walked right on the property and broke right in again. But because of that, I was able to use that in the film. So in the first movie, that door that they're trying to get into by the elevator, you could just pull it right open. But in the second film, they have to use the code.
Right.
And so I just gave Tommy my employee code so she could type it in and the door would click and they could pull it open, which is why when Ashley grabs it the first time, it doesn't open because it hasn't clicked yet.
Right.
And we're hearing Drew coming down the stairs, and then they go into the first story.
I was wondering if that was like a mess up or something because she did try to open it and didn't open and
That's
then
a mess up.
and
Yeah.
yeah. But it works for the movie because in real life, like we say, like they say in Ed Wood, the movie Ed Wood, like in real life, that would happen to Ashley every day, like
Yeah, well, and there she's nervous, and the character is nervous, and they're trying to get inside, so she's pulling on something that's not opening, hoping that it will. And then they make it inside, and then that's when they meet, Tom, and that and he's the security guard, and that my coworker gave me that Santa mug, and we put Coke inside of it to make it look like coffee. And so I said, we don't have enough Christmas stuff in this. There's like barely any Christmas stuff. So I ran back up to the office and grabbed that mug and filled it with soda and had him like they hit it and the coffee's supposed to, go on him. And so that worked out. And then that's Tommy, he's like, well, what are you running from? And she's like, him. And you see the door slightly close because I wanted to give a way for Drew to get into the building. So I just had one of the PAs outside hold the door open. And then when I yelled action, Drew just stood there and they just closed the door. So it looks like that's how he got into the building instead of not giving a reason.
yeah,
And he threw Chris or Drew throws the axe, which is just the camera. And Matt came up with this idea of Drew just goes like this past the camera and he whips the camera.
yeah,
And then when it hits Tom, he just whips it again at Tom. So originally it's away from Drew and then it's at Tom. And then that's, he just does the jolt with the axe at him. Miranda's below him with a like a metal wire holding the axe handle up until he can grab it and then kind of hold it on his own.
That's awesome.
And then the two girls, when Drew gets mad and he grabs the axe, they run actually into a wall. So
Oh
there's
wow.
a so that where they run into, there's like a storage unit right there. And then that cuts to them in the stairway to go back upstairs. So that's kind of what I'm talking about is no matter where you're filming, you've got to use what you have to your advantage, especially if it's free. And if now all of a sudden the building has security, you should put that into your script.
Mm-hmm.
And they go back up there and they find Miranda. The joke between Miranda and myself is that she's dead in all my movies. She's always a body. So she's a body in the swamp cooler in the first film. She's Jennifer, the friend who went out to pee but never came back. So she's the slit throat in the storage unit. And then she's dead in Meat Massacre 4. She turns into a skeleton with Skull Evil. So she's almost in, I think in almost everything I've made, she's played a dead body. That's just the joke.
I
So,
mean,
yeah,
it
flesh.
works. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and it's an extra body, and she's already on set. So, like with Flesh Attack, the zombie short that I did, she's in the bathtub with her intestines all hanging out.
So she'll
And so,
be dead in the new Xmas movies whenever we make those. And
yeah,
Ghoul.
she'll be a body in those too. And so Tommy gets killed. She gets the machete that is actually from Clown Motel Massacre, which was also in Camp Blood 666. So Philip, of course, who knew David Sterling, because David was like one of the producers on Clown Motel, said, can you send your machete to Ted Morling, who was doing Camp Blood 666? And then when Ted had the machete, I said, can you send it to me so I can use it? This way I could also give it back to Philip. Philip let me keep it, but it's got blood on it from the box, and the machete has blood from Camp Blood Massacre. I'm sorry, Camp Blood Massacre, from Clown Motel Massacre, Camp Blood 6, and now Axmas 2. And I keep using it. So that once again, if you got a prop, keep using it over and over. Miranda and I have used the same two mannequins, male and female. They have a big hole in them over and over again. Those things have paid for themselves probably like 10 times now.
That's
So we just
awesome.
keep, yeah, it's just okay. Well, how are we going to kill Tommy? All right, well, we got the female mannequin. Let's take that machete and we'll stab it through her. And that's how that worked. Or in the first film, the couple gets the pipe through them.
Pipe through them. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That those are the two mannequins. So that's so it's all using stuff over and over and over and over and over again to get your
If
money
it
back.
works, it works. Don't
Yeah.
ever, yeah.
And
Um,
then
I never would have thought that that was like the same thing, period. You know what I mean? Like when you watch it, you're not thinking about that, you know. When you make it, it's different.
oh yeah, 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 oh definitely. And it's something that you could just keep doing because it's like with okay, so for an example, with Ben Stober, he gets the crowbar in the back of the head. I took that from Friday the 13th part 2 when the sheriff gets the hammer in the back of the head. And I said, can we, and I showed Miranda, I said, can we do something like this? Where we'll show Tommy swinging the crowbar, and then Ben can turn his head, and the crowbar is already in his head, and we'll just do the gooey sound effect. So she took a Santa hat. That's the whole reason why Ben puts on the Santa hat. He puts it on, and in it is a metal piece underneath like this, and behind him is the crowbar. So all he has to be doing is, ooh, ooh, it's going to get really hot in here. Ooh. And then you just see Tommy come up behind him and he's like, ugh. And then he turns his head and there's the crowbar already in it.
Nice.
So there's ways of doing, that stuff too. And then Ashley gets Drew into the storage unit, and she hits him with the axe in the back. Oh yeah, Joe did the blood for that too. That was a visual effect of the blood. He also did the visual effect of the gasoline being poured on Drew, because I didn't want to soak him in water because it was so cold. And then when she lights Drew on fire, that's all Joe's effects. And
Yeah, I
then
could
she,
tell there were visual effects, but I I honestly, after hearing, especially after watching that documentary on Kane Hodder and everything, I don't really want any of my people to be on fire, to be set on fire. Like I don't care if it looks
there's
fake.
that fake fire, that cold fire that they use.
Yeah, I mean, and I
But
think
that
fake.
wasn't that wasn't Kane. Kane had the real stuff, but there
Well,
is.
Kane is like, because so if anybody doesn't know, that Kane has a documentary that's called From Hell to Back, or To Hell and Back, and
Yeah.
it's basically about how he was, he was this hot shot special stunt guy who wanted to show off, and he ended up telling this lady who would show him how to show her how to do, show her, like, show her a stunt. And the stunt he decided was setting himself on fire in the fucking desert where it's dry. And I don't know why he thought all this was a great idea, but he did. And he set himself on fire. And there was a lot of problems with it. And he got burned. And he could have died, And my life would have been completely different because Kane Hodder was a big part of um my life when I got into coming to the conventions and stuff. Like he was there hanging out, talking to me, and everything. So like I really always appreciate him, and we share an anniversary. His anniversary, the day that he got burned, is the same day that I quit drinking alcohol. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
There you
July
go.
13th. So he was
Oh,
like,
okay.
"Wait,
Cool.
what?" That we share that together. We have that in common. So, well, that date,
Sure.
he was like, I'd rather have your have your problem than what I went through. And I
Yeah,
was like,
that's a good documentary. If people haven't seen it, they should. So it was always intended for Drew to be put up, to be on fire, but I always knew it would be a visual effect. So
it
and
looked
I think
good.
it looks absolutely fine. Miranda did all of the makeup. She did all that, the hand burns, and she did the face burns, and that was, we were out shooting other stuff, um while Miranda was putting the makeup on him, which took a couple hours. So we have behind the scene pictures of like Drew, like goofing around while she's putting the makeup on him and stuff. And that looks really good. When he comes back for part three, is I want him to be like, I guess that's a spoiler. He doesn't die in part two.
I had a
He
feeling he didn't,
Well,
like
he's gonna look like Two-Face. So his half of him is good, which won't match with the fire really, but I don't care. So half of his face is going to be all burnt, and the suit, half of it's going to be all burnt. So half of his body will be burnt, and the
well,
other half.
watch people say, I saw part one and two, and he didn't get burned that way. And dude, like, who fucking cares? Like, it's a movie. You
Oh,
know,
it's now a visual thing, and like I said, because of Terrifier 3, things are going to be very different with 3 and 4. I've completely changed almost everything around.
is it because
Um,
like they took ideas that you had?
no, no, it's I don't want to say.
Okay.
Uh, um,
We'll keep that till you're finished with part three and four. Then we'll have you back on and you can discuss, that, or
yeah,
whatever.
I think this will work, and I want to shoot it next year. So and then yeah, Ashley leaves. She thinks that Nick is dead. She meets up with me again, and then I go after her with a hammer.
Yep.
So we find out that I might be part of this. That I was maybe meeting Ben there in part one because Ben says that he's the one that took all the bodies, so that we might be related. And so I'm showing up again because then I'm supposed to be meeting Ben and Drew there. And
Hmm.
then I find their bodies. And then, knowing that she walked out again, I'm assuming probably that they're dead. And so I go after her with the hammer.
Like, damn it, you did it again.
Yeah, damn her. And and then, it took I want to say it roughly took almost a year to edit the film. And it did end up Brad didn't put it on Brad Twigg, he didn't put it on Frames of Fear 3, which is what I wanted him to do. He put it on a different collection,
Yeah,
but it almost became kind of like the John Ward collection in a way. And then Todd brought it out through Scream Time. And so this is and I wanted to do like a big deluxe kind of like version
nice.
of it. So it's a 2 disc set. And so we got Drew right there in the middle. And it says that there's lots of extras,
Nice.
extras. So
Extras.
there's 5 audio commentaries on this.
Jeez.
5. Behind the
Are
scenes,
you on every single one of them?
I'm on every one.
So
Yeah.
you're doing the Eli Roth thing, like in Cabin Fever, when that released on DVD, there were 5 commentary tracks, and Eli Roth was on every single commentary track, chatting with every single person of all the facets of production and different stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. So, because I think it starts off with it's Ashley, it's me and Ashley. Then it goes into me, Drew, and Ben. So I wanted Final Girl, and then I wanted Villains. And then after that, it's Oz, who was Miranda's assistant, Miranda, and myself for effects. Then there's one with um the uh uh the composer of the music, Mike Conway. So there's that, and I think that he's on there also with Matt, the
Where
DP.
did you find
So
your composer?
through Matt.
Okay. And
And
he
and
wasn't
for
the composer for the first one though, right?
no, because I wanted different people on each film. So
Okay.
Kurt did the editing, the sound, the color correction, and the music. And I said I wanted something 80s. So that's what he did. And then for part two, Matt was the cameraman, the editor, color correction, all that stuff. And he said, "Oh, I know somebody who could do the music, so we could have Mike Conway do it, who's also a director in his own right." And I said, "Well, give me something that's like Danny Elfman." That's because I wanted that Tim Burton kind of Danny Elfman feel.
Nice.
And because I always felt that this felt a little more comic booky than the first one, which was more straightforward. Um,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah, and so he did the music for this. So that's all on the audio commentaries. And then there's a poster reel, a photo reel, trailers. I mean, I like I won't I'm
You
probably
decked
not
the
gonna
halls.
I did. And then this looks like this for 1 and 2. I've kept this. It might be one of the only ones left, but Philip and I were handing these out at a convention at one point. It's a Clown Motel Massacre card.
Nice.
And it's I initialed it on the back, and I've just kept it in here because Philip worked on the film, so I kind of put them together. And then um, this is another version of it with now it's got the white with like the blood on it. So I don't
No,
know how Todd is doing them now at Scream Time. I think it's 1 disc, and then he gives you the other disc in like a slip. I think.
okay, so big question. So when you, and I don't know if you can answer this or not or whatever, but I'm sure you can. When you want copies of the movie to sell at like conventions or something, do you pay a certain amount to Todd, or does he just send them to you?
So it's I can go with Brad or Todd. Uh, um, but with Todd, I do it mostly because the films are done, separately. So I will just contact Todd and then he gives me like a discount because he gets them, I think, through Kanaki.
Okay.
And then so I'll buy them from him. He'll set up the order and then just have them mailed because I'm in Vegas and Kanaki's in Reno. So once he puts in the order, I only get them a few days later.
Right. It's not doesn't
Um,
take very long.
no. And what I'll do is I'll send Todd or even Brad all the materials. So they'll get posters, stills, all basically make an ISO file and put the movie together, have everything. It's one big file. All he has to do is just drop it in to make the DVD.
Mm.
And so I've learned how to create DVDs. I think a Blu-ray would be the same way because Kanaki also does Blu-rays, but
Do they do Blu-rays too?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
I've been we're thinking about for Sick Flick Productions going into DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that. And
Yeah, they also do CDs and all of that. So they're pretty good. And then with Brad, and I wasn't 100% happy with this because I really wanted to be Frames of Fear 3. And he said, "No, this your stuff is better than Frames of Fear 3 is going to be, so I wanted to do a separate thing with you." And so he brought this out. So he brought
Fright
out Fright
Vision
Vision.
with
Yeah.
was that Rebecca Reinhardt as is that Dr. Bubenstein?
Yes.
Yes.
Now I will say I made Brad mad on this because I was kind of a backseat driver on this whole thing. So he we both put in money to do this new cover. This is the original cover.
Oh, that's
And I told
interesting.
him, I said we shouldn't use this because that's the same mask that David Sterling uses for Camp Blood.
Oh, that's the clown
And
mask.
yeah, and I said, and there's no clown in the movie. Well, now I realize, I mean, what does that really matter since, I mean, this person's not in the movie, so what is it, who cares?
Right.
I mean, George Stover is the host of this, and he is wearing a cloak, I get.
Right.
Okay. But so we redid it with her, and of course she was really happy to be on the cover of this.
Of course. Who's not like
Um,
who doesn't want to be on the cover of a movie?
Yeah, and then I got the one picture here from of Mark Justice for Maximus 2. So this is, and it did kind of end up being like the John Ward collection because you get Maximus, but we also have my Skull Evil, my short film that I did. I did a black and white cut of it, and so I wanted it to look more like a Twilight Zone episode. So it's called Green Mist instead of Skull Evil. And it's called the noir cut. So it's
Hmm.
all black and white except for the mist, which is green. Um, and for and to tell people what that is that it's a meteorite that crashes in Vegas in the desert. It's a green mist that comes out and turns people into skeletons. And so I had to figure out a way with no money at all on how to turn people into skeletons. And I think I did a pretty good job. There's also Aximus interviews. I try to get all the people who are in Aximus to do interviews. So I think I got everybody.
Nice.
There is the Chapman storage commercial that Mark, the director of Scare Me, shot. I'm in it, and Philip Tricky plays his character, Monty Chapman, in it. So and it's a commercial for the storage facility, and then there's a trailer on it.
Hmm.
So it's and I think that there is I'm pretty sure there's even audio commentary on here, but it's a different audio commentary. So and I'm in a couple of these. I'm in like two shorts. So it really is like the John Ward collection. I was in other people's films
Nice.
that were added to this. Because Brad asked me, do you have people that could contribute? And I said, well, yeah, but I'm in all their movies. And he's like, well, that doesn't matter. It's okay. So I think out of, I mean, I think I'm not in like two or three of them, but I'm in at least my stuff and then a couple other
I
people's.
gotta check
So
out Fright Vision, and Brutality, which are both on Tubi, by the way.
yes.
So if anybody wants to check those out, they're anthologies that are on Tubi. But I want to check that out just because I want to see what Dr. Bubenstein has to say, before each of your movies. I love Rebecca. Dr. Bubenstein is planning to eventually come to Echo Lake, uh kind of like what we do with Davila, where she'll review whatever, not review, but uh host public domain horror films and stuff like that. That's an idea that we had. I don't know if it'll when it'll come to be or whatever, but I'm thinking hopefully by the end of next year for Halloween. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Uh
that'd be
we
cool. So,
I mean, it's simple and it's fun to do stuff like that, to
well, and I wanted to go in an opposite way with something because I they haven't come out yet, and I still have to film one more segment. So this is hopefully all this stuff will be next year. Is my Reign of Vibrant Screams, which is volumes one and two, which is my anthology that has basically H.P. Lovecraft or cosmic horror, that type of stuff, short films in it. And at one point, David Sterling thought of releasing it, and he goes, "Well, you haven't shot the host segments yet, right?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he's like, "Well, you need like a big-breasted Elvira type girl in there." And I'm like, I don't want to do that because everybody does that. So I want Drew Marvick to be our cosmic horror H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu host.
nice.
So he'll have his beard and then he'll have like a piece over his eyes and he'll be in a cloak and one hand is fine and the other hand is a tentacle
That sounds
that has a
fun.
yeah, that has a wire in it, and so we'll move it for each film. Like when we cut back to him, we'll move it a little bit, and then there's the a book with like an eye on it, and that's what he's going to be reading off of. And David's like, "Well, no guy is going to want to see that," and I'm like, "Well, I tell you what, if you want to make part three, then you can have a big-breasted chick in it. That's fine, but we're going to go this route." So, and somebody else that's been a big part of this too is Tom Devlin. And
Hmm.
so during Xmas 1 and 2, we would contact Tom. Like that'd be like Miranda and I. If Miranda was having a difficulty on an effect, she would call Tom. And so, Tom Devlin's out in Boulder with, the Monster Museum. And so we're going to be shooting that Drew Marvick stuff, the host stuff over at his museum. And
Nice.
so Tom has been a big part of these. So which
Tom's
is really
really a
nice.
nice guy too. I've known Tom, I think, before I knew you. He was I think I knew him. I almost want to say in the MySpace days,
Oh wow.
because I was a big fan of Trent Haga, and I think Trent Haga did a movie called was it Sand Squatch or whatever, and I think Tom and Lola were a part
Oh
of it.
yeah, the Legend
Yeah.
of. Yeah, I got
Legend
it
of
right over here actually. Yeah, I
Sasquatch,
got
yeah. And I was like, I was in love with that movie or whatever. So that's going to be on Indie Film Cafe at some point. We haven't done that yet, but I want Paul to watch it because I don't think he's seen it yet. And it's Trent Haga, man. I fucking love that dude.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Trinaga's awesome. So
yeah, but anyway, yeah. So it's fun to see those stuff. So I've known Tom for so long and everything, and it's funny that like how once again a small world, where I never knew even know who he was, but I guess the Las Vegas, kind of team is pretty small in that world, you know.
Vegas is it took me a long time. I've been out here in Vegas now for probably over 15 years. And I hated Vegas when I first moved out here because I got into car accidents and all of that. But once I started working on other people's movies, you find out that there's actually this really cool, small but like kind of growing film community. So, you got Drew Marvick making his movies, you got Joe Lujan making his films, you got like Heidi Moore, Nicholas Grant, you got Tom Devlin's Monster Museum and Tom doing his stuff. You got the Mahal brothers, out
Yeah.
here. Um, uh, Nicolas Cage now lives out here. Mark Wahlberg wants to leave Hollywood and build a studio out here. So it's getting bigger. And one of the things that I did, and I suggest that people do this if they can, is you work on as many people's projects that you can, and you
Mm,
work in as many capacities as you can. So it's you get to know people, and then if you work for free, you could go, well, hey, I worked on your film for free. Can you work on my film for free? And they'll do it.
right.
So, and then on the next movie, they'll go, well, I just worked on your film for free. So that's kind of how it works back and forth. And that's what we have out here. We don't have those LA, California permits that we have to deal with or anything. When I was shooting Skull Evil, is I have there's a skeleton on the ground, and I had my camera in front of it, and there's a cop car, and the cop car is in the shot, and you could see these two cops come up to me, or you don't see it because I cut at that moment, but the cop car is there, and they come up to me, and they're like, what you doing? And of course, this is private property. I pay rent here. So it's not like the cop could really do anything. But I said, oh, I'm a film student, and I'm just taking some stills of this skeleton for a project. And they're like, oh, okay. And they walked away.
Mm.
So it's
I think
like
they just had to feel like they were doing something at that point. Like if
yeah,
somebody were to complain, they could say, "Well, we already we already did something about that."
yeah, maybe. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's this complex has been. I mean, I shot all of Skull Evil here, and we did it at night. I shot some of it during the day, half of it during the day, and half of it at night. And all of a sudden, we're shooting outside late at night. Not one complaint, and a security guard rolled up on a bicycle. And I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. And I'm just like, hey, dude, nobody lives in this apartment. We're just shooting right here. We're not bugging anybody. He goes, oh, I don't care. I just want to watch.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
Vegas is very easy to film in.
Virginia's the same way. So we've had a couple issues. I think we've talked about this. I know one issue we had some like neighbors at in that my friend Ricky's house. He was these neighbors complained, called the cops on us. The cops came and they said, "Do you guys have permits?" And uh my two of my guys were like, "Oh, we don't need permits. We have the landowner's permission to shoot here." And they're like, "Okay, never mind. Carry on." You know? And they walked away, like no problem. Like yours, like your thing. Another person I called up and somebody had stolen some property of mine in Richmond, Virginia. And I said, um, I asked the cops if they could do anything. Unfortunately, the cops couldn't do anything because, well, I didn't have a receipt for it. It was a hard drive, and I have the receipt for it, and there was no proof that it's mine. Right? Like they can't really just say, "Take it on my word that that's my property." You know what I mean? Right? Like, and stuff. So I totally got that, but the guy was like, you made a movie out here? And I was like, yeah, we shoot movies out here. And it was like, really? That's awesome. If you guys need any cop things, just let us know. This is Richmond, Virginia, the freaking capital, and people are just like, cops are just like, if you need anything, any assistance. I was like, thank you, we will. We haven't needed them, but if we do need them, we'll call them up. And it seems like they're very okay with I mean, as long as they're probably in the movie, they're okay with it, you know?
Right, right.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? Like,
Well, it also all depends on how you handle things too. If you're nice about it and not a jerk, you could get away with a lot of stuff.
yeah.
So it's oh, so I want to show this one last thing. It is I think the Meat Hook 4 trailer, and I know the Axis trailers are on this. So
What
this
is
is a
it?
whole
Coming attractions.
yeah, this is from who put this together? Um I forget who put this together. Yeah, it doesn't say who put this together. Oh, Tony Newton.
Ah, Tony, good old Tony, who does
Yeah,
a
so he,
lot of
he
that
was
stuff.
looking for trailers, and um so I think Ferguson sent him Meat Hook Massacre 4 and 5. and then I said to Maximus 1 and 2. So it's kind of cool to see your trailers on here with a bunch of others. So,
Yeah, that's
that's kind
neat.
of neat. So yeah. Yeah, it all matters. It just matters how you handle stuff. That's all. I mean, and just what you're doing. If you're a dick, people are going to treat you like a dick.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I
it
know it takes like 2 seconds to be kind about things, you know? Like if somebody says, we had an issue where we were shooting on somebody's property, you know, and they kind of told us to kindly leave, right? And they were a little bit more bitchy than we were, right? So we left and walked out and shot like closer to my house, you know, where we weren't bothering that that property, you know. But then later we were like, well, we know that lady wasn't very happy before, but let's do it for another shoot. And we never got in trouble. Maybe she didn't see her, maybe she wasn't alive anymore. I don't know because it was years later. I don't know, but maybe it wasn't her property anymore. I have no idea. But we shot another short film there. So there you go. You know?
yeah. Yeah, it all matters. I mean, I've had cops draw guns on me when I was a film student because we were making like a detective film noir movie with gangsters and all that, and we stupidly decided to film down by the freeway by where the bus is, and we were holding
Makes
guns on each other, fake guns, and then we had fucking SWAT, and we were all down, get down on the ground, and our faces were down there, and all of a sudden one cop goes, "Hey, they're making a movie," because there's the 16 millimeter camera sitting up there. And then, we all got to laugh, but we could have
That's
been
not a laugh.
shot.
That's not a laugh. Like, I'd still be scared. I'd probably poop my pants if that was the
Oh
case.
yeah, they were bulletproof vests and they had the guns all out on us and all
I
that
get
stuff.
it. Oh,
But for something like Meat Hook 4 is the ending of the movie is Mindy uh Gilkerson, she ran out and then the killer Bubba would come out and she'd run out of the building and then he would run after her, pick her up and bring her back in and she'd be screaming. And then, okay, do it again. And then we do it again. Okay, do it again. And then we do it again. And eventually, I guess somebody called the police, and we had like a helicopter shining
hmm.
down on us. We had probably about 10 cop cars surrounding the building that we were in, and they all had guns out. And, uh, but it's private property. It was a bar. And so it was private property on like this dirt area. So, and we had permission to be there. So, that I actually did pay for to shoot at. And once the cops realized what was going on, they told us that they can't be in the movie, that police can't be in the film. Like you can't do that. You just like real police cannot be in a movie. But because I wanted them to do that, I wanted to recreate him, she runs out, he grabs her, and then all the cops show up. And there's the
Right.
helicopter. And it would have been a great ending of just having them storm the bar. But they're like, yeah, we can't do that.
And yeah,
But
no, I think I get it because they're actually on duty at the time, and
well, they're
uh,
on duty, and if they go undercover or whatever it is, they're on film. So
yeah,
but they did take pictures with cast and crew. I
that's
did have
cute.
posters. So we signed posters for them. So
That's
there
awesome.
is some behind like a little bit of behind the scenes footage of the cop cars all pointed at the building with the police going up with Bubba and the guy's like 6 foot something and he's got the meat hook and the flesh mask and the arms around him. So
Is that
it
on
it,
DVD? Is Meat Hook Massacre 4 on DVD?
it is now.
Okay.
Yeah, that Wild Eye released it. They released all of them.
What's it under? What's the title? Is it under Meat Hook 4 or is it
It's
under
Meat Hook
a
4. Yeah, Meat Hook Massacre
okay.
4.
Well,
I unfortunately had nothing to do with the Wild Eye release or the David Sterling Blu-ray release because he released a box set with all of them. And I wanted them to use a different version of the film, and I was completely shut down. That was by Ferguson. He said that John Ward will have nothing to do with this movie
mm,
because we're not friends anymore. But and David said that he didn't want to get in the middle of it. So they released a cut of the movie that I'm okay with, but it could have been better. Um, and I don't think on any of them there's audio commentary or anything. I think they're bare bones. All of them are.
that sucks.
Yeah, but I wanted to do something. I did put up on Facebook at one time, what do you guys think of me doing a Meat Massacre 4 commentary and spilling the beans on what happened? And I got a private message from another filmmaker who said, "Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Just
It's really
don't."
a bad idea. It's just like even, even if you had a rough time, you just don't want to, say something
Oh, well,
that's like
these if I got to say what I wanted to say, these people would never work with me again. So
right.
it really was my Vietnam.
And
It's if Aximus, and I'm not saying God that that there is good at all, but if Aximus is Godfather and Aximus 2 is Godfather 2, then Meat Massacre 4 is Apocalypse Now. So it was that bad of a shoot. It actually made me, I couldn't edit the movie because I got sick. Like literally sick while watching the footage. My stomach turned while I was trying to edit and I couldn't do it. So Dustin edited the movie
yeah.
and I just couldn't do it. I would actually get sick. So I
Was it sick from like not enjoying the movie or something? Or
yeah. It was just not a good shoot.
so it was like reminding you about the what happened basically and stuff
Yeah, it
like
was like I
that.
was getting flashbacks
Oh
and all of that
God.
stuff. And it was
PTSD and shit. Holy crap.
yeah, yeah. So now I can go in and maybe do a different cut of it. It wouldn't bother me at all. But at
Or you can watch it at least now and you can probably have a different perspective on it.
yeah, Tom Devlin thinks it's the best thing I've done. He loves Meat Hook 4.
It it's funny how we as filmmakers, and I include myself in this, will like, you know, we see things differently than the audience, right? The audience only sees what you've made, you know. But us as filmmakers see how hard it was to get things made, or whatever. Like the trials and tribulations that's why I love commentary and stuff. But like Chris Seaver, the filmmaker Chris Seaver, he talks about how much he doesn't like most of his movies because I think it's because it reminds him of a lot of the stuff that he went through to get it made, and it wasn't fun for him, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, Meat Hook was Meat Hook 4 was my first feature. I had spies on the set that were reporting to Ferguson about what was going on. That there was a lot of stuff that went on that set,
Yeah.
and I still work with some of those people, probably with like half of the people that are there, but I don't work with the other half. So it's but in when you compare it to the other Meat Hook films, and I don't mean to toot my own horn, but it is the best one. I'm sorry, it just is. Are Xmas 1 and 2 the best Christmas Santa slasher movies? No, I could say that. No, I mean there's Christmas Evil is better, Silent Night, Deadly Night is better. But as far as the Meat Hook films go, mine's the best. It just is. It's got the budget, it's got the acting, it's got the editing, it's got the effects, it's got
I
you
mean,
know.
we sort of talked about this before, but it's like you don't want to rush things, you know? You know what I mean? Like you seem to have been fighting over quality over quantity, you know? You want to make it as good as possible, not how many days you can shoot. That you can only have to shoot 3 days or something. You know what I mean? Like you seem to,
Well, yeah, and you
care.
need to prep all this. Like if you look at the other Meat Hook films, let's just say that this is like a knife or something. You would the person I would do this, and then it would be stuck here. Oh no, look, the meat hook is in me. Ow, ow, it's in me. Where I would have it right here. So we would go through the effort to cut, put the meat hook in, or like the meat cleaver, whatever we were using. So you would have blood and all this. But if you look at a lot of those films, because they're done so cheaply and quickly, it's oh no, oh no, now it's in me, and you just film it from that angle where it looks like it's, like right here.
Hmm.
And we didn't do that. So and that's the same thing with the Axis films, or even with, when we did stuff like Cannibal, or If I Can't Have You, which are two found footage films. I'm very happy with
Mm.
Cannibal. Um, Skull Evil is still one of my favorites. You can see that I have that on my YouTube channel. I absolutely love that, even with all the mistakes. No issues, no problems with that at all. Just me not knowing how to use the camera or sound and stuff properly. So there's a lot of continuity errors and things like that, but it still works. It's
Mm.
still really cool. Because what we had to do on that was, if Mikey O'Brien, if he because he was my Bruce Campbell for a while till he moved, is he would be at a car. It'd be like Julianne Prescott is in the film, and she would be in the car, and he'd be like, "Hey, you know what what are you doing in this car right here? I need for you to be over here." And then I would go, "Okay, hold." So Mikey would hold here. Julie would get out of the car. We would take the skeleton, put it in the car. I'm still rolling. And I'd be like, "Okay, action." And then Mikey would turn back to the car, and I would follow him. And then he'd be like, and there's the skeleton. So we figured out a way that if I follow him with the camera, pause, okay, Miranda, let's get Julie out, or let's get whoever it is. We're gonna put in that skeleton, pan back. Now there's a skeleton. And he's still doing,
Nice.
so it worked out really well. And I've asked people, because I want to do Skull Evil 2, should I actually show the skeletons with the skin coming off? And they're like, no, you should do it like you did before. So
There
if
you
if they
go.
yeah, just keep doing it, just moving that camera, replace with skeleton and pan back. So yeah.
Well,
And a lot of this is, and I'll say this because then we could take off if you want, is for people that are out there that want to do this. And
hmm.
the Axis stuff is low budget. Even Meat Hook is low budget. Be nice to people, do favors for people, work for free, do just don't be a jerk. Feed your crew. Do, don't, I know it's low budget, so times you have to film for 12 hours, but you gotta give them something for that 12 hours. You just have to know, if they keep coming back, then you did something right. If they don't want to come back, then they did something wrong. Now, with between Xmas 2 and 3, it has been COVID and a lot of stuff. So I don't know if I could get everybody back because it's been so long. I mean, people don't live here anymore. They got married. Now they have kids or whatever it
Well,
is.
Ashley's coming back, right?
I believe she is. Yeah, she hasn't said no. And Drew should be coming back, but it's and if they can't, I don't blame them because it's been so long. But when we did Activist 2, I had no problem with getting people back. None at
Right,
all.
like I really like that you got the dead boyfriend back and everything, and all that stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for Ben to come back for part 3 in the
It'd be
same
cool
type
if
of
both of them
idea.
would come back and now she's like haunted by those both of those
I
guys.
would like both of them to come back, but I'm not sure if Dylan is up for it because he's doing other stuff. So I've
Okay.
seen him in a couple commercials, but I mean, I'm gonna try to see what happens. But with doing stuff so radically different on part 3 and 4, I don't even know if that would be necessary anymore. But
Mm.
it's just be nice to people, treat people well, don't be a dick. If it's don't if a cop comes up to you, don't sit there and be like, "Hey pig," "Hey jerk." Be
Why
nice to the
would
cop,
anybody do that?
because people
I
are
don't know.
dicks, because they're
I
jerks.
I don't understand it. It's not in my nature to just automatically be a jerk. My only issue is, and this is why I have other people talk to the police and stuff and things, is because I get I get irritable about things I can't control. You know what I mean? So if a cop tries to stop a movie or something and I couldn't control that issue, I have to get other people to say something or whatever because I might say something uh just out of just the like irritated, and stuff like frustrated. Because movie making, a lot of people think it's easy to make a movie. Yeah, like all you have to do is just point and click and then it's out in like 2 weeks or something. And maybe people like Dustin Ferguson could do that. But for me, and there's a lot of work to it. There's a lot of setting up, there's a lot of making, lighting, doing all that stuff, and so that's already frustrating because it takes time to make the movie. You can't just do that. That when we have delays or other things, that it does just things I can't control frustrate me. I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, that's so if that's the case, then you need to hire the hot chick producer who then can go up and talk to these people, and because she's a hot chick producer, she can stop it.
Exactly.
That's one of the things. I mean, I was when I was going to LACC, I was doing directing projects. I had Michael Aranda, who was in Creepazoids, one of my
Hmm.
favorite films. He was in some of my student movies, and we were shooting a scene, and all this rap music was coming up because I lived in a bad neighborhood, and I knew the guy was a gang member. Like they would be over there. And I went around and just asked him very nicely, you know, is there, I'm a film student, we're shooting a scene. Is there a way of just turning the music off for like 2 hours while we shoot? And oh yeah, man, no problem. He did
Yeah,
it. No problem at all. It was no problem. And some of the people that were on the crew when we were shooting, like, dude, don't go over there. You're gonna get shot, and it just matters how it's done. It's just, and the guy was very nice. And in 2 hours, he turned it back on. So, it just depends on what you do.
that's a great idea, like a great scene in almost in a movie, like the director who has the guts to go up to the gang member and or whatever. I in my head I picture somebody with like face tats and everything like that, like and bald or whatever, looks at you and everything. You're like, hey man, can you turn it down? We're trying to shoot a movie over here, like you can put it back on in like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, cool, man. But there's like this suspense of like, is he going to is he
As he's
going to
walking through the guy's yard, and like the dogs come out that are chained,
you know
and he's walking through, and see the one guy, he's got the gun, like, oh shit, still walking through, just all the way to the guy because he's in the back playing the music.
and then
So
and there's
it's
like this like suspense of like whether or not the guy's going to be okay with it or shoot him. And then he goes, okay, cool.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, he was totally
That's
fine.
awesome.
So
Well, thank you so much, John. Like this is awesome. Like I really appreciate everything. Like you coming and taking your time out of here, showing me all your
well, thank you.
movies and talking to the stories and everything. Like I said to everybody, go on Tubi, watch the stuff. I suggest to start with watch those Wild Eye releasing and stuff movies. Anthology films because the anthology films have the movies on them already,
Yeah,
but
I don't think the titles are changed on the movie. I think it's just the box or the advertisement says something different. But when you click on it, I think it still comes up saying like Frames of Fear and
on Tubi, no. It still says brutality on Tubi.
no, but when you actually play the movie,
Oh, okay, so they
I
never
don't
changed the
think I
title in the
don't I don't
movie.
think so. Yeah, I
That's
think I put
weird.
in. Yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe it does say brutality, and they just did one of those cheap titles where they just threw it up there for 10 seconds and then took it down. So
Hmm.
I could be wrong, but I think it has the same title. I could be wrong. I could be
I
wrong.
wouldn't be surprised because I mean, uh, I'm really getting frustrated with indie distributors because a lot of times they just like Amityville, St. Misery Road, who I know well, I mean, I don't know personally, but the woman that's in that movie and her husband, uh, you know, originally they set out to make, you know, Saint Misery Road, and it's all about Saint Misery Road. It's not, it has nothing to do with Amityville, but
Right.
whatever company it was, ITN or whoever decided, let's put up and make it called Amityville because that'll sell, and it's first in the
I bought it.
letters. I did too. I mean, I'm a sucker. I'm not saying that like, that it wasn't a great marketing strategy. I'm just saying that it had nothing to do with Saint Misery, it had nothing to do with Amityville. So like it will make a lot of people frustrated,
Oh,
including
but
me who, you know,
you gotta know, pardon me, going into if you're an Amityville fan and you're an Amityville collector, you gotta know that if there's 100 Amityville movies, probably 75 of them have nothing to do with Amityville. It's just the title. So, but that's why you buy it is because the title is Amityville, whatever it is,
yeah,
Amityville Volcano. But the movie has nothing to do with Amityville. They just slapped on the title
that's a
as a
great
film.
title. I'd watch
Amityville,
Amityville Volcano.
yeah, there we go. Okay.
I
So,
I don't know where the volcano would be or whatever. I guess you could always do a you find a public domain whatever, you know shot or whatever of it, of a volcano erupting, you know what I mean, and then just the
well,
rest
yeah,
of the movie is about
it takes place in Las Vegas. A volcano has now become active in Las Vegas, and you use the stock footage of that volcano, and
stock
and
footage.
and and it's spewing out spirits or something like that. Maybe it's Scientology based.
There you go. Did they have like they have was it they in their religion there's volcanoes, right? You dip the person in the volcano and then I don't
That
know.
was, yeah, the plane that flew over that has all the aliens, and they dropped them into
Jesus
the
Christ.
volcano, and then the spirits came out, and that's why we're all evil.
Oh, makes
There's more
sense.
to it than that, but that's, yeah,
That
more or less.
that makes as much sense as anything, I guess. So whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. As any religion, like if you ever think of any religion, you're like, wow, that sounds like a great fictional story, there, but people
Because
believe
it
it.
is.
I don't. I like my Christianity, and I love my God, and my God's been very good to me, um, especially lately. So, um, I will always praise my, Yahweh, you know, Yahweh
Oh,
every
jeez.
day.
Oh,
Um,
jeez. Okay.
anyway, everybody, thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you, John. How can
Thank
people
you.
reach you?
I'm on Facebook just under John Ward, so they could go through there or message me. Also YouTube channel John Ward at Dark Park Films.
Cool.
And then yeah, Tubi would probably be the best place to watch stuff.
Instagram, you got
And
an
then
Instagram now.
I do have Instagram, which is John Lee Ward. So I just started that up. I am on X as I think it's John Ward 666. Um, so
You're
there's a
not on
few
Blue
different
Sky
ways.
yet. You're not on Blue Sky
Nope, don't
yet.
plan on it. And of course, yeah, my YouTube channel. So that's where you can see a lot
Wait,
more
are
of the
you on
shorts and all
Threads?
that.
Are
No,
you didn't do that yet? That
no, and I'm only on certain things because people said I should be on it, and so I am, but I don't do anything like Instagram. I don't really do anything on it.
it's I don't like so I was discussing this actually with my dad because my dad heard that Instagram was a great place to post pictures and stuff. And I said it's it's a good place to do pictures, but like Facebook actually lets you have albums, and everything. So Facebook is usually the good place to post in my opinion, your photos, because that way you can have an album of them. Otherwise, you just have like a carousel, which is what they call those things that you just, slide through and everything. So I don't know. I like all of them. I have all of them except Snap. Well, I have a Snapchat. I don't use it. But I use TikTok. I use Threads. I use all of them. LinkedIn.
There you
I
go.
mean,
Yeah,
why not, right?
sure.
You might as well be on all the platforms because you've got to promote, everywhere. So, but
I'm happy with what I'm on, so
hey,
that's what I'll stick
look,
with.
it works for you. It works for you. So
Yeah.
there you go. So everybody check it out, and I'll leave links at the bottom. You can check out his
Thank you.
YouTube channel, Dark Park Films, where sometimes I am a guest on as a reviewer and everything.
Yep.
That's kind of fun. And check out everything that he's doing because a lot of it is a lot of fun, man. He's out there just, and I think 2025 is going to be a busy year for a lot of people, including yourself. I think you're going to start
I'm
doing
hoping.
a lot more stuff. I'm gonna have to keep kicking you about it because, get your button gear, and everything. But hopefully next year we'll see more Axmas and some
Yeah,
Ghoul.
yeah. There we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
Cool.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I got I think two more episodes for this month. And then then we go on to the next month of ones. So enjoy it, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Merry Xmas.